I just finished watching Mr. Skeffington, the 1944 drama starring Bette Davis and Claude Rains, and I have to say, this might contain one of my favorite performances Bette Davis ever gave. This is Bette Davis Eyes, the series where I watch and review every single Bette Davis film on my way to becoming the most prolific reviewer of all time. And that's not necessarily because it's her most technically brilliant role, but because of how the performance changes over the course of the film. It starts out almost theatrical, almost exaggerated, and then gradually becomes quieter, sadder, and much more human. The transformation is fascinating, and it's made even more interesting by what was happening behind the scenes. This wasn't an easy period in Bette Davis's career. By 1944, her relationship with Warner Brothers had become increasingly strained. She had already fought the studio in the famous legal battle of the 1930s and had become one of its biggest stars, but by the mid 1940s, she felt like the quality of roles she was being offered was declining. In her autobiography, Davis recalled filming Mr. Skeffington while she was physically exhausted. She famously wrote that during the production she was a face only a mother could love, referring to how ill and worn out she felt. She also had suffered a serious eye infection during filming, and one of Hollywood's enduring stories is that someone allegedly put an irritant into her eye wash. Director Vincent Sherman later recalled that when he asked who might have done it, the crew joked that everyone would raise their hand. Whether the story has grown in the telling or not, it's clear that this was not a happy production for Davis or probably anybody else on that production. The film follows Fanny Trellis, played by Betty. At first, Fanny seems incredibly vain. She's obsessed with her beauty, with attracting admirers, and with being the center of attention. Then she marries Job Skeffington, sorry, played by Claude Rains. Not because she's in love with him, but because she wants to save her brother. Her brother has been stealing from Skeffington's business, and rather than let him face criminal charges, Fanny persuades Skeffington to forgive him in exchange for marriage. It's a strange setup to a relationship. What's interesting is that even in these opening scenes where Fanny appears to be remarkably shallow, the film quietly shows another side of her. She sacrifices her own future for someone she loves, and honestly, someone who's not deserving of that love. That's not something a completely selfish person would do. One thing that surprised me is how important Skeffington's Jewish identity is to the story. Remember, this film was released in 1944, while the Second World War was still being fought. Hollywood generally avoided explicitly addressing anti Semitism before the war, so making a sympathetic Jewish businessman the male lead was fairly notable. The movie doesn't make his religion incidental either. It's a central part of the plot, affecting how other characters treat him and how Fanny's own family reacts to the marriage, mostly her jerk of a brother I mentioned earlier. The film is actually based on the 1940 novel Mr. Skeffington by Elizabeth von Arnim, although Warner Brothers updated aspects of the story to make its themes resonate with wartime audiences. Claude Rains is, as always, excellent, although I'll admit something did strike me. He seems a little bit old for the early part of the story. The film begins around the time of the First World War, and Skeffington is supposed to be an eligible young bachelor. Claude Rains was in his mid 50s when the movie was made, so it requires a little suspension of disbelief. That said, he's so effortlessly charming that you quickly stop thinking about it. The marriage itself slowly collapses. Fanny spends years entertaining countless admirers. The film never says outright that she's having affairs. This was still the era of the production code, but it certainly implies that she enjoys the constant attention of other men. Skeffington eventually remarks that his secretaries were always very understanding after difficult evenings at home, which is, the reverse of the saying. Again, the film never explicitly says he's being unfaithful, but it doesn't really have to. It's remarkably sophisticated in how it lets the audience fill in the blanks. Eventually, Fanny divorces him and receives a generous settlement from him. Their daughter chooses to live with her father instead because Fanny has never really showed any interest in her. Another interesting detail is how the rise of Nazi Germany quietly shapes the story. Skeffington takes his daughter to Europe, but later brings her back because conditions become increasingly dangerous. Given that the character is Jewish, audiences in 1944 would immediately have understood the implications. The film never dwells on the Holocaust directly, but the political reality of Europe hangs over these scenes. Then comes the turning point. Fanny contracts diphtheria. She survives, but the illness permanently changes her appearance. This is where Bette Davis's performance completely shifts. The high-pitched voice disappears, the theatrical mannerisms fade away, even the musical score becomes calmer and more restrained. It's as though the entire film matures alongside the character. That's incredibly effective. There's one heartbreaking sequence where Fanny attends a party after losing her beauty. For years, she'd been surrounded by men who had admired her. Now she can see just from the expressions on their faces that something has changed. One former admirer tries to comfort her by saying that what she looked like in her youth is his ideal of beauty in a platonic way. Her response? That's remarkably hollow. It's such a simple line, that's remarkably hollow. But Bette Davis delivers it with complete understanding. For perhaps the first time, Fanny realizes that all the attention she received was conditional. One of my favorite visual ideas in the film is Skeffington's enormous portrait of Fanny. It's this glamorized, idealized painting that represents how everyone remembered her. After her illness, the movie repeatedly contrasts that portrait with the real woman standing beneath it. It's almost like a reversal of the picture of Dorian Gray. Instead of the portrait aging while the person stays beautiful, the portrait remains eternally beautiful while the woman herself grows older and more ugly. It's a wonderfully effective visual metaphor. By the end of the film, Skeffington returns blind. Ironically, only now does Fanny finally become capable of genuinely loving him. For the first time, her compassion isn't directed towards appearances or social status, it's directed towards another person. The movie is fairly blunt about its message. Vanity has kept Fanny emotionally immature. Only by learning to love someone else does she become a complete person. Now, the film also suggests that beauty only really exists when someone loves you. That's an idea I find a little troubling. I'd actually broaden it. I don't think it's really about physical beauty. I think it's about worth. The film argues that people find meaning through loving and being loved. Whether you agree with that or not, it's a much richer idea than simply saying looks don't matter. A few interesting facts about the film. Mr. Skeffington earned Bette Davis an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, the 10th nomination of her career. I think it was a record at the time. Claude Rains received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, one of 4 acting nominations during his career. Director Vincent Sherman later wrote that Bette Davis considered this one of the physically hardest films she ever made because of the illness she suffered during the production. That would be her eye infection. The film was adapted from Elizabeth von Arnim's best-selling 1940 novel, which was published only 4 years before the movie reached theaters. A remarkably quick adaptation by Hollywood standards. Mr. Skeffington isn't a perfect movie. Some of its moralizing feels heavy-handed, and parts of the plot can seem melodramatic to modern audiences, but Bette Davis is extraordinary. What's so impressive isn't simply that she plays vanity convincingly, it's that she allows the performance itself to evolve. As Fanny loses her beauty, Davis strips away all the theatrical flourishes until what's left is a lonely, regretful woman who finally understands what really matters. That's a performance worth watching. And for me, it's one of the most overlooked films in Bette Davis's remarkable career. If you like what I do, please leave a comment, like a video, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you.